Hey y'all, and we're here with Yarn Equals Crochet. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad to see you. It's been, I think, since October the last time I made a video, and please accept my apologies for it being so long. A lot of life changes and things have been going on for me, and before I knew it, the holidays came and went, and now we're honing in on February and Valentine's Day, and I completely lost track of time. I also want to say hello to a lot of the new subscribers. I have had a little influx here recently of new subscribers, which honestly is surprising to me because I haven't been very good about putting videos on. So I'm glad that the videos I have were interesting and perhaps entertaining and informative for you. So thank you so much for subscribing. That means a lot. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, so let's dive in to the main reason why we are here today. I made my first crochet garment. I made myself a sweater. I've been telling myself to do this for over a year now, and I've always been too afraid that I wasn't going to do it right. I didn't have enough skill. Yeah, there were a million reasons why I didn't want to do it. And I finally just told myself to get over that. You need to try this. Once you do it the first time, you can do it the second time. And then I couldn't find the right pattern I wanted. I couldn't find anything that made me want to take that plunge. And finally, Lion Brand got me one day. I bought a Lion Brand kit that was 30% off, and the pattern that I purchased is from designers Evelyn and Peter, and this is called the Pemberley Pullover. That was initially what drew me because I am a big Jane Austen fan. I read all the books. I enjoy the movies. So when I saw the Pemberley Pullover, which those of you who are familiar with Jane Austen, we all know that Pemberley is the name of the home where Mr. Darcy lives. So that was a draw. And I apologize for my printout not being in color. When I saw the actual sweater, the color of the sweater, and when I looked up the name of the colorway of the sweater, I knew that that was my sign. The yarn that came with this kit is the Lion Brand Heartland yarn. I knew that I liked this yarn because I've touched it in the store before. I almost actually bought this colorway before because this colorway is called Great Smoky Mountain, which for those of you, if you do not know, that is actually where I live. I grew up in the valley of the Great Smoky Mountains. I've seen these mountains practically every day of my life. I'm very familiar with them. So when I saw this colorway, and I actually really like it, and because it's this dark sort of like tonal gray with like white spun into it with kind of a bluish undertone, I knew that if I made mistakes in the pattern, they'd be easy to hide. So that is what finally made me take the plunge. I really liked the pattern and the fact that it was considered easy. This entire sweater is worked up using half double crochets, which is great because half double crochets make closer stitches. It's not very gapey. So even though I do wear a shirt, usually this little black tank underneath the sweater, it's still very difficult to see through it. I mean, there's some little holes because we know how crochet is. That just tends to happen. You can kind of see through the stitches sometimes. This one actually turned out not that way as much as I thought. That dark color and wearing this dark tank underneath it just blends perfectly. One of the things that was really helpful, these designers, Evelyn and Peter, they have a YouTube channel, and there is an entire tutorial for the Pemberley Pullover that would help if you got to any point in the pattern that there was any confusion. You could watch her on video actually make this using the same color, using this very color. Before I show you my sweater, let me show you what I had to do to make it. I did not realize until I made this sweater how tight of a crocheter I am when it comes to my stitches and my tension. I spent days making swatches over and over and over. I don't know how many different size crochet hooks I went through. The pattern calls for a 5mm crochet hook. I think it was a 7. Yeah, size 7 crochet hook. Yeah, it was a 7. because 7 is the most obscure size to find for some weird reason. I had to dig through my hook stash and I found one Susan Bates, one boy style, but I think is actually like a part of a cheap crochet hook set I bought from Amazon when I first started learning how to crochet. And I also had a size 7 wood hook from Furls. I tried all of them. The metal boy style hook worked the best for me with this particular yarn. But the only, like I said, the only size 7 in a metal hook that I had was a straight crochet hook that had no ergonomics to it whatsoever. And normally that's not a big deal to me, but making something that's garment size like that I'm going to be using a lot, I wanted to make some modifications. So I took my cheap little crochet hook and here's what I did to it. It's okay, you can laugh if you want to because it's kind of funny. But what I did is in my stash bag, I bought all these random things from Dollar Tree one day. And one of the things that I bought was a pack of rubber bands and a pack of cushy pencil grips. So that's what these are. These blue things are cushy little pencil grips. They were still just a little too big for the crochet hook. They slid a lot. So I put 2 rubber bands on the ends of each of these to hold the pencil grips together, and it worked perfectly. I had no problems with it, and having these rubber bands right here was actually really helpful because it made like a stopper for the yarn, so it would stop and wouldn't keep going. It helped me to control the yarn. This worked great. I had no problems. My hands never hurt. My fingers never hurt. This hook did a really good job with the yarn. Now, there was a little bit of splitting. I won't lie to you. This yarn, it's not very tightly wound, which is what helps make it super soft. So there was some splitting happening, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't deal with. I just needed to slow down a little bit. All right, so you guys ready to see my sweater? Let me show you my sweater. I'm gonna put it on. All right, here it is. Here's my first crochet sweater. And it's a little too big. Let me see how far I can back up here so you can see the whole thing. It comes down right to the like mid of my waist, which I thought might be too short for me, but it actually worked really well. Here's the back. This sweater was supposed to have a boxy feel to it, which is what I want. I do like to have room in my shirts, so that, but I didn't mean for this to be as baggy as it like, but y'all, I promise I hit the gauge right on the nose. I don't know. Maybe I should have used that 5mm and it might have made the stitches a little smaller, but this is comfortable. You know, the sleeve length turned out great. But like I said, everything just sort of, everything ended up being a little bigger than I thought it was going to be. But I'm okay with this. I'm proud of this because you know how it is with, you know, sweaters and hoodies and things. You can get away with those being a bit baggy, and that's just part of the look. It's the style. I was afraid this was too much. When I first put it on, this is a size extra large, you guys. This is an extra large. Look at all this room. Like if I took it and made it a bit more form fitting, you know, here's where I am. You know, the arms. This sweater, I'll go ahead and tell you, I have not blocked it. It's not been blocked. I haven't cleaned it either because I didn't honestly feel like it. I've only worn it a handful of times, but I'm so proud of this, guys. I did something that made me nervous, something I was afraid of. I did it, and yeah, it's a little baggy and it's not perfect, but I'm so proud of this. I made this. And it makes me so happy. So happy. I have a couple of other things I want to catch up with you guys on. The last time that we spoke back in October, I was in the middle of some makes. One of the things that I was making was a beanie hat that had some of the gold stellina in it. It was like a black color. The colorway was called Black Tie. It's hand-dyed yarn from Sewrella Yarn, and it was fingering weight. I finished the hat. I bought 2 skeins of it, and I was able to make a hat for myself and a hat for my best friend. And this is probably the most gorgeous, complicated beanie I've ever made, but it turned out just amazing. Look at, like, do you see that? Like, it looks like leaves. Perfect for fall. Look at that sparkle. Like, look at this. And the brim. Can we talk about this brim? Like, all of this, these front posts here, making this weaving effect. I have worn this hat, I can't tell you how many times. And every time I wear it and I look at it, it makes me smile. It makes me happy. People always comment, oh, that's such a pretty hat. Did you make it? And I'm like, yes, I did. And it makes me so happy. Like, it's just gorgeous and it's shiny and it matches my sweater. It's not quite the same. This is more of a gray. This is more like a blackish with blue in it, but they go together. This hat actually matches a lot of the clothes I wear for work. Most complicated part was just the brim here, but once you got past this brim and got to the hat, the actual body of the hat worked up like that, like no problem. Also, in the last video, I had a kit that I had purchased. It was a beanie kit that looked like a candy corn, and it was from Sea Star Crochet, who is a Canadian crocheter. She has Instagram. She's wonderful. If you don't follow her, you should, because she will make you want to make beanies, and they're just adorable. She does such a good job. I finished it. I made the beanie. It's so pretty. I've worn it to work a couple of times because it's been cold. We just had a lot of cold weather come through here last week. Your girl was supposed to go on vacation. And then we got 10 inches of snow. And I had to cancel my vacation. First one I had been on since January of 2020. So 4 years. Long overdue. I had to cancel it. Thanks a lot. One other thing that I have been doing is I've been making more beanie hats for donation. And one of the things that I did, I went through my stash and I pulled out all the yarns that I had accumulated that certain other places that you can donate items to, they have more restrictions when it comes to the type of yarn you can use, and for good reason, because, you know, you're talking about people that are cancer patients and things like that have skin, like major skin sensitivities. So there's just certain types of yarns that they're very picky about, you know. And when I went through my stash, I pulled out, let me show you, hang on. I got my huge Target canvas bag, which, let me tell you, this bag, I think I paid $8 for it. I have used this as a project bag this is a perfect project bag for blankets, for this sweater, everything. Like, it worked like a dream. It's great. But I filled this thing up with scrap balls and all the yarn that I have that I know I can't use for donations. Not to like places like Knots of Love. This is more for folks that don't have those super skin sensitivities. So I pulled out, like, I have so many pretty red hearts. This is some, the acrylic from Hobby Lobby. Like, that's some more Super Saver, that pink right there. And let's see. Oh yeah, I've got some of the Walmart anti-peel. Never used, but this stuff feels great. My goal is to use up every bit of the yarn that I put in here, and I want to donate it to my local homeless community. I started stash diving. This is the first hat that I made. The hat is fine, but it's like a Frankenstein hat. Look at it. Look at it. It's like just pieced together with like random balls of yarn I had left over. I mean, the hat is just fine, but to me, it was like when I was making it, I was laughing at myself because I thought, this thing is so ugly. Like, I don't know if I want to give this, you know, to somebody, because they're going to be like, what? Like, you ain't got better taste than that. but it's comfortable. It's cushy. Like this thing feels good. And I'm like, you know what? Somebody's going to be happy to have that. So no, we're not going to do that. Then I made this hat. This is a Bag O' Day crochet pattern. It's got all these wonderful post stitches on it. That's kind of hard to see. This yarn right here is made from, let's see, the Lion Brand Ombre, the Mandala Ombre, and the colorway Happy. I made a baby blanket out of this from my last video, and I still had some extra yarn left. Made another hat. I love it. It's pretty. The colors are bright, and it's going to make someone happy. And this is Big Chunky hat that I made. This is from Premier Serenity Chunky. It's yarn that I got from Walmart. This is nice, thick. It's a little big for me, but you know, it's thicker and it's going to keep somebody warm. It's been really cold here. Last week there were a few days when it was like 8 degrees. So on a day like that, someone's really going to like having that Big Chunky hat. And I've got a couple of hats. This was made from Bernat Twist, like velvet yarn. This thing is super soft. Like, it's really super soft. And it's kind of like, where it's thicker, it sort of muffles sound when I put it on. Sound is kind of muffled. And this is where I had just had to piece some stuff together. Like I said, this is like a scrap diving projects. I just pulled a bunch of yarn out of my totes and decided this stuff's been in here too long. We're going to make hats and we're going to donate them to people who need them, could really use them. This turned out nice too, I think. You know, blue and white goes together. It's got the little mixtures of greens in there. Very nice. I made pretty much all of these hats when we were snowed in last week, and I crocheted so much that I got to the point that I didn't want to crochet anymore. I've also been reading a lot. One of my goals that I've set this year through Goodreads is to read 12 books in 12 months. I did that last year and I actually read more than 12, surprisingly. So I've started doing that again. So far I've got through 2 books, you know, because couldn't work for a solid week, stuck at home, and eventually, you know, you can only crochet I can only crochet so much before I just need to do something else. So the first book that I read, the book I chose for January, was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I loved the movie that came out in the mid-90s. I used to watch it all the time when I was little. And then I found out when I was older that the author, this Frances Hodgson Burnett, actually lived in this area when she was in her younger life. She was born in England. Her family moved here, and they moved to a small little town outside of Knoxville called Newmarket, which is where I lived till I was 11. And then I moved to another small town right next door to Newmarket called Strawberry Plains. So that whole area is where I grew up. So the fact that the lady who wrote this book grew up in that area and in the Knoxville area as well made that personal. I've been meaning for years to read this. Never got around to it. And I finally decided this is going to be my January book. So I read through it, enjoyed it absolutely. If you liked the movie, if you liked The Secret Garden, you'll like the book. The next book that I got from Barnes & Noble, they have a section that's just like books for like local things. And I found this book and I had to get it. A Haunted History of Knoxville. And the author is Laura Steele. And this was so much fun. I enjoyed reading this. There were so many things in here. I was born in Knoxville. I've lived here my entire life. There were things in here I had never heard about. Not in school, nowhere. What really makes it cool is the place where I work now is just a hop, skip, and a jump from where most of the locations in this book happen. Like the events that she's talking about. And I go outside and I walk all the time on my lunch breaks. And, you know, I'll walk a couple of miles every day on my lunch break. And so I'm walking by these places and seeing all these buildings and having no idea about the historical significance of them. So that has really made it cool. So this was absolutely this was the best $20 that I spent in a long time. The book that I picked for February, and I'm probably not going to get it read in February, is this. Marie Antoinette, The Journey by Antonia Fraser. I really like Antonia Fraser. If you've not heard of her, she's a very good historical author. The first book of hers that I read, it was The Six Wives of Henry VIII. I went on a huge Tudor England kick during all the madness of 2020. And I learned a ton of random facts about, which two things are not related, about ancient Egypt and Tudor era England. I don't know why I got fixated on those two things during the year 2020, but it was a very good distraction. That was where I found Antonia Fraser. I got the book from the library, read it, loved it. I have my own copy now. And for Christmas, my husband got me a couple of other of her books from about historical things. I've got this one from Marie Antoinette. I have one on Mary Queen of Scots. So I'm looking forward to reading those, but like, look how tiny the font is. This is my February book, but it's probably going to end up taking me a few months to do that. That's it. You are caught up with me now. This is basically what I'm going to be doing for a little bit. I'm going to be pounding down, trying to work all the yarn out of that big giant Target bag I have sitting down here. Make as many hats as I can, clear out some stash. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. I greatly enjoyed it. Thank you to all of the new subscribers. I'm so glad you found me. I hope that you all are having as pleasant of a winter as you can. If you're going through the rough weather, I hope that your electricity is working. I hope that you have heat. I hope that you have water sources. If you're having a rough winter, that you're having it in at least a pleasant environment, because our winter here has been insane. It's 1 week apart. Last week we had 10 inches of snow. Week later it was 70 degrees and the sun was shining. Tennessee has had a huge influx in population. And let me tell you, living here, it is not for the faint-hearted. The weather does its own thing. It is not unusual to have all 4 seasons occur in 1 week. Thank you for letting me show off my sweater. It's not perfect. It's actually a little too big, but it's comfortable. It keeps me warm. It's not so big that it's, you know, I wouldn't wear it out in public. I've actually worn it. This is like the 4th or 5th time. All right, y'all have a good day. And until next time, happy Yarn Craft Day.